Hey, my name is Ivy Scheck-Snyder, and I'm a gaited horse trainer from Northern Illinois. Today we're talking about how to use your seat to get gait. Now, the title is only slightly misleading. If you have a horse that is not gaiting at all, almost nothing you can do with your seat is going to help. However, if you have a horse that's starting to gait, or starting to show you a little bit, or is gaiting well and you're just trying to get it more consistent, these things are super helpful, and it will definitely help you encourage your horse to gait if they're not gaiting. But doing this alone will not get gait for you. It is used in conjunction with all the other exercises like head down, using ground poles, stop and back up, stop and praise, working on hard surfaces versus rough surfaces, or a deeper footing. So this is used in conjunction. Now, if you have a horse that's a lot farther along and you're just looking for consistency or subtler cues, this is going to be perfect for you. And again, if you're not there yet, this is really good for you guys to know anyway. So it's definitely not like it's only for the people that have gait, but it is not going to be the cure-all for those of you whose horses are not gaiting. But you may find that it helps. So the thing is, and it's actually been pretty consistent, even with the hundreds of horses that I've worked, that this tends to work the same way. So I'm going to lay out kind of the groundwork, the basics, and then I'll explain why we do what we do. I also just want to mention I do have a DVD that talks about how to use your seat a little bit to get it, and I'll have a link in the description. Again, this video is going to go over it, but it's just going to show you more things. So when you're trying to get gait with pacey horses, they tend to hollow their back. And so our goal is often to get them to lift and round their back to change how they move. So with trotty horses, we're often trying to get them to hollow their back just a little bit, just a little teeny tiny bit, get them to hollow their back so that they stop trotting and will go a little bit toward the pace, which would then move them into the gait. So because of that, what I'm going to talk about is ways to use your seat to affect change, but you're not going to stay there. So I'm going to encourage a more neutral position, and once you get gait, you're going to go back to that neutral position. Now you're going to change your seat based on what they're doing, and that's what I'm going to talk about. But once they've got the gait, you're not going to stay in that locked position, either forward or back. You're actually going to go ahead and go back to the neutral position, if that makes sense. Okay, now before I get into what to do to get that gait, I'm going to go ahead and read through some of the questions so far, and then we'll jump right in. Hi, Mary from Texas, and Beth from Arizona, and Nancy from Canada, and Lori from Tennessee, and Linda, and Elaine from Missouri, and Jean-Luc from France. Donna said this may help me. Cool. Michelle, thank you for the videos. You're very welcome, Michelle. Nan and Jack from Maryland. Susan says, what would I recommend for footing in a home arena that wouldn't discourage gaiting with my trotty horse? Well, this is different between trotty and pacey. If you have a trotty horse, you want to have the flattest, smoothest footing possible, or at least a track or like one side of your arena that's very packed down and flat. That is going to be the very best for a trotty horse. So I'm not a footing expert. I don't even own an arena, so I can't tell you what that is, but do some research and you can find out. Shanna from Virginia, and Carol from Florida. Lori, hi. Elizabeth says, thanks for all your energy. Well, hey, if I can pass it on to you guys, that's great. Valerie, Christine from Baltimore, Annalie from Sweden. Hi, I don't know that I've seen you on here before. Thanks for stopping in and commenting. And Heather from Central Illinois. Hey, so sorry, we're in the same boat. And Tana from Montana, and Amarins from Netherlands. Wow, we got a lot of people on here. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. And Diana from Nebraska. So, with the gait, these are things that will help you get your horse gaiting. And I have personally done it with my horses. I've had riders do it with their horses, and they've been able to do it. So with the trotty horse, we want them to hollow their back slightly. And with the pacey horse, we want them to round. So, here are the two rules. If your horse is pacey or pacing, stepping pace, you're going to sit up and slightly forward. Now, you're not going to be like leaning on the horse's neck, but you're going to come up and forward. Okay, pacey horses sit forward. That means scooch to the front of the saddle. If your saddle is too big and you can scooch to the front, because your goal is to get off of their back. As soon as they smooth out, then you come back to a more neutral position. Okay, so for pacey horses, up and forward, scooch to the front of the saddle. Okay? For trotty horses, we scooch to the back of the saddle and we lean back a little bit. Now, this is not riding a racking horse with your arms out and your legs forward and just leaning way back. This is just lean back a little bit, and as soon as they gait, what do? Come back to neutral center. Okay? And this is very consistent, and you'll even have horses that'll do both. So you'll be riding down the road or the trail, and they're going pucka, 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 and you feel them start to change, or you hear it. Sometimes you'll hear it won't be as smooth, pucka, pucka. And so you're like, oh, I think they're starting to get pacey. Maybe you see their head coming up. And so what you do is you just lean forward. You haven't done anything with your reins are loose, and sometimes that's all it'll be. It's all it takes for that horse to get back into gait, and then you come back to neutral. You don't stay forward. You don't stay locked in that position. You come back, sit in neutral. And let's say you're riding down the road, the horse is trotting, you're gaiting, and you start to feel like they're getting a little bit trottier. You can usually tell there's a bit of a bounce, and the gait won't sound like pucka, pucka, pucka. So what you do is you just lean slightly back. But as soon as it smooths out, come forward or come back to neutral. Now, what if you have a pacey horse and you sit up and forward and it doesn't fix it? That's normal. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. It depends on how far your horse is along. If it doesn't fix it, then you work on head down, because a lot of times once the horse is starting to get the idea of gaiting, they'll put their head up and get a little pacey. Ask them for head down. Now, then we're going to go back into, are you asking for too much gait? Do you need to stop and praise for more? Are you asking for too much at once? All of those things still apply, and that's on you to make sure that your horse is in shape and can gait longer, and you're just using your body to help get them in it. So if your horse is still learning, if he starts to get pacey and you sit up and forward and he fixes it, that is a perfect opportunity to stop and praise. Perfect. Now let's say same thing. Let's say you're riding along at the gate, the horse gets a little trotty, you lean back, he doesn't change. Go ahead and lift your reins a tiny bit. Now he should be pretty good at this now. Lift your reins a tiny bit. As soon as he gets into the gate, stop and praise. Because now your horse is starting to gait, we're fine-tuning it. We want him to stay in the gait. And part of that is we stop and praise whenever he corrects himself, or instead of stopping and starting again, if we can correct it while we're still going forward, that is huge. That's what we really want to praise for. All right, I'm going to go back and answer some questions, so feel free if you have any questions. Elisa says, hello. Cheryl from Southern California, she says, I'm watching with interest because this has been a hard thing to teach my friends. And again, I don't have videos to show you today. I'm hoping to get some, but it's very simple in terms of it's lean forward if they're pacey, lean back if they're trotty, but come back to center when they're gaiting. Debbie says, worldwide today. Yes, we got a lot of international people. From Kentucky, she is. Carl from Texas, or from Dallas, Texas. Hey, I will be down in that area next week. Treva says, hi. Tammy from Cincinnati. Debbie says it sounds very simple. Again, it is simple, but if your horse is not gaiting yet, just moving your seat often is not enough. It has to be combined with stop and praise, with using your reins, asking for head down or head up, and doing all those other things that I talk about. So this is in addition to everything else. Wendy says, I love this topic. I do too. I tell you what, I had a clinic. Lady brought her foxtrotter, and she was pretty advanced. The horse wasn't super consistent yet, very close. Like, we didn't do a ton of head down or a lot of stuff to get the horse gaiting, so we had the horse gaiting the first day. But the owner wanted to do some showing, and she's like, how do I get, and she wanted to do like Western Pleasure, so you need looser reins. She's like, how do I correct my mare without having to do a lot with my reins? I was like, that's a great question. So I said, here's what we do with our seat. And the horse in the deeper footing was a little more trotty, but then we started riding her kind of on the driveway, and she would go between the trot and the pace. And so I rode her the second day and did this, and this mare she's quick to pick up on it. And then the owner rode her, and again, it's a little pacey, she'd sit up, and the mare would correct, and if she was a little trotty, she could lean back, and the horse would just correct herself. Now again, that was for a horse that was a little bit more advanced. There's no reason you can't try this with your horses right now, but odds are if your horse is not gaiting now, this alone will not fix it. But if you go and try this and your horse gaits, what must you do immediately? That's right. You have to stop and praise. Because that's how your horse knows they got the right answer, and then they'll do it again. We're trying to make it something be more repeatable. Tana says, I have pacey. Yep, it's normal. Mary says, on pacey horses, when you say up and forward, are you talking about full 2-point or just shift your weight forward? Well, basically, I do just mean shift your weight forward. So I'm just going to try to demonstrate sideways on here. So if you're sitting in fairly neutral, which is not like perfect, and I have a horse that's getting pacey, I'll just kind of go, I'll scooch to the front of the saddle and just lean that much forward. Now, you are welcome to try full 2-point. My guess is it won't necessarily help, but there's nothing wrong with trying it if it's something you know and are comfortable. But really, I just mean a slight shift of your weight forward. Now, it's not like a so slight that it's this, but I am leaning forward maybe 5 inches with my chest and scooting to the front of the saddle. Lori says, this happens to me a lot on the trail when Pacey gets worried about something. Tana says, dumb question, but literally stop and praise or just keep going, but tell him good boy and pat. Tana, great question. You know what? This is why I talk about it virtually every lesson. I have videos on stop and praise. Stop and praise means literally stop and let the horse rest for 30 to 60 seconds. You can pat him a little bit. You can use food if you're into any of the food rewards. I do it, but not every time. You can let the horse eat grass. If you're, again, those are options. But stop and praise at minimum needs to be you stop. You let the horse stand there for 30 to 60 seconds, not 5 seconds, not 10 seconds, 30 to 60 seconds. You drop the reins and you take a deep breath. That is the number one thing that will get your horse gaiting. And that's why I did a video this week on it. If you didn't watch it, please go find it. It's about shorter sessions and stop and praise. And it's what every single horse rider, trainer out there needs to hear. It doesn't cost you anything. I make no money off of it. I don't sell anything. It is the one thing you can do that anybody can do no matter what you're training, no matter what horse you have. If you want your horse to learn something, use stop and praise. Literally, stop, let the horse rest. And it's going to feel so counterintuitive. It's not even going to feel right. But it is the thing that will help you get anything done faster. So it's not a dumb question. But that's why I talk about it all the time, because it's one of those things that people are like, oh, I've never heard that before. And so I have to keep bringing it up because we keep adding new people to these live videos, which is awesome. But sometimes we do have repeat questions, which is good. The reason it's good that you ask, and it's not a dumb question, is there could be other people right now watching that wanted to ask but didn't feel comfortable. So whenever you ask those questions, you not only benefit yourself, you benefit everybody else. So good job. Michelle says, any clinics in Kentucky? I don't have any right now. I will be doing almost certainly in the fall a clinic in Southern Ohio, in Midland, Ohio, like I normally do. They get precedent. They're some of the first people that I've done clinics with. I've done 6 at this farm, and so they get precedent. So if you're within 4 hours, 5 hours of them in Kentucky, I won't be doing one any closer to you, most likely, but you can come to the Midland, Ohio one. Marianne says, sounds easy enough. It is easy, but remember, it's not the thing that's going to fix the gait. It's the thing you can add to the other tools that I'm giving you. Debbie says, back to watching more of your videos. Yeah, so here's the thing. I am working on a DVD that will be available for you guys to buy. That it's going to include hours and hours of footage you have not seen. Nobody else has seen some of this footage. And it's going to cost something like $125 because it's going to be like 6 to 8 hours of footage. I'm not quite sure what the price is. It'll be a multi-DVD, package. But if you don't want to watch that, you can go watch all my free videos, of which there are now dozens and dozens and dozens. So it's going to, if you buy the DVD, you'll save time. You won't have to watch mine. All the information is basically for free right now on this Facebook page. But if you want a more condensed, concentrated version, that would be what the DVD's for. But I still want to have information available for free for those people that can't afford it and don't quite know what I'm teaching. All that information is going to be for free. Diane says, should I let my hips or lower back move with the horse, or should I try to stay quiet with my body? Will it affect the gait? Diane, that is a great question. So how you move your hips will indeed affect your gait. When I'm riding and the horse is gaiting, I have very loose hips. I'm just like, they're just really loose and moving, and you need to, because some horses have more movement than others, and that just depends on every horse. What you need to do, what I tend to do, is when they're pacing or trotting, I tend to resist, because I don't want it to feel comfortable for the horse. It's hard to describe, except that I'm not necessarily moving with them, except to keep my back from getting stiff. The pace hurts my back, even if it's not bouncy, because it's stiff, and that stiffness is coming up into me. So I am very loose when I'm riding. I'm a very relaxed rider. Unless something's going on, then I stiffen, but I try to stay very, very relaxed especially once they're gaiting. You need to move with the horse. Now, the trick is relaxed and moving with the horse are not the same thing. That's why I would have a lot of people learn to ride the sitting trot, because your hips are moving. A lot of people think when you ride the sitting trot, it's forward and back like this, but it's left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, whichever hand I'm not doing. It's basically your seat bone is moving, your left seat bone is moving forward, and then your right seat bone is moving forward. And it just repeats, and you have to, that's not a relaxed movement, that is an active, you're using your core to make sure you're moving with the horse. And some gaited horses need you to do that because their movement in the saddle is so much more. Others are very relaxed and very flat, and you can just sit there and be relaxed and not be an active rider. So hopefully that answers your question. Antonina, sorry. She said, very interesting. Greetings from Poland. Hey. Debbie says, stop and praise. Yep. Elisa said, would be great if I had a clinic in Illinois. I would love to do a clinic in Illinois. Most people don't think it's worth the money because I'm local. It happens to all trainers everywhere. If you live in Texas and you try to hold a clinic in Texas, they're like, well, you're from Texas, so what do you know? So I'm always willing to do it. I will do a clinic pretty much anywhere. It just, somebody needs to organize it. I don't do the organizing. I just show up. Actually, I help advertise and things like that, but I just pretty much show up. Monique says, from Ohio, if my horse gaits, then paces, I go in 3-point, what do I do with my reins? Okay, so what I would ask you, Monique, is, so you say if he paces, you go into a 3-point, okay? What do I do with my reins? So I'm not quite sure what you mean by 3-point, so you may have to clarify that. The reins, it depends. If he's actually pacing, I would just lean forward a little bit and ask for head down. If that doesn't correct it, I would stop and back up and go forward, like I teach in some of my other videos. You can take a look at that in the video that talked about break up that pace. I go into some of the detail of the exercises that I use. Another option is you can do leg yields. If you're familiar with dressage or you've done leg yields before, it's a great way to break up the pace. Tana says, so you actually just answered the question I had, you actually stop and praise. Yep, that's why I let people ask questions on here, because I can answer it in a live video. Cheryl says, clicker training does work for gait training too. It absolutely does, Cheryl. I tell people that if you want to do clicker training, that's totally fine, and I encourage it. I use it, but not everybody wants to, and so it's not mandatory. So as much as I advocate clicker training, I don't say that it's something that everybody needs to do. Thank you, Susan. Yvonne says, you're literally an angel. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Marie, she says hi. Okay, so people are saying hi. Hi, Marie. Rashenda says hi. Linda says clinic in Dallas. So right, here you go, Linda. I would love to do a clinic in Dallas. I'm happy to do one. My boyfriend is in Fort Worth, so I'm in Texas quite a bit more than normal. So if somebody wants to set up a clinic in the Dallas or Fort Worth area, go for it. I'll be there. Bree says, would you keep the reins slack during the stop and praise? Absolutely. This is the horse's chance to rest, so you better not be holding the reins tight. Seriously, if your reins are tight, you need to go back to some training. Suzanne says hi. Yvonne says, I want to watch the DVD. I'm buying it. I know. I'm hoping soon. This week, next week, hopefully by next month, I will have it ordered, and I will be taking pre-orders with the discount. I will let you guys know, I promise, when it gets close to being out, and I'll be showing you clips and information that will be in the DVDs so that you can know if you need to purchase it or not. Allison says, yes, I want to buy your DVDs. I know, yeah, it'll be coming soon. So it'll have a ton of new footage in there. It's going to have a lot of slow motion about all the different gaits, flat walk, running walk, foxtrot, trot, detailed explanations about the gaits. I don't know that we're going to cover like saddle fit bits, but we're going to be talking about leg yields and a lot of other stuff. So we've got more stuff coming. And Marie says, we need you in Europe. Hey, Marie, I will be there. Maybe not this year. Maybe in the winter or next spring. I would love to come to Europe. Okay, so again, let's just review for people that maybe just joined. Using your seat is, you want to be loose and following. If your horse has more movement in their seat when they're gaiting, you may need to be actively moving with them. If your horse is gaiting a little bit, this is ideal. So if your horse starts to pace, you sit up and forward, maybe about 5 inches. if your horse is gaiting and he starts to trot, you sit back, maybe about 5-6 inches, scoot to the back of the saddle. Again, if he's pacing, scoot to the front of the saddle. The goal with the pacey horse is that you get the weight off of their back, which is why sometimes 2-point can help. But again, 2-point is not subtle. You could do it at the beginning, but the goal is for that subtleness to be there, that all you have to do is shift your weight a little bit to make that difference. So that is what I recommend. You don't do 2-point all the time. You just shift your weight a little bit, but then you come back to neutral as soon as they get gait. And if that doesn't fix the gait, you need to go back to using some of the fundamentals, which is head down if they're pacey, head up if they're trotty, stop and praise, or stop and back up, and go forward. Now again, if you shift your weight and the horse fixes the gait, you must stop and praise, because that is how the horse knows they did the right thing. If you just keep going and going, he may be like, well, I'm not sure what that was. It might have been an accident. Hard to say. If your horse shifts the weight like you want them to, you really, really need to stop and praise. I mean, I know I say this before, but I mean, when I mentioned stop and praise a couple days ago, we had so many testimonies about people saying how much stop and praise has helped them. And yes, it literally means stop and let the horse rest for 30 to 60 seconds or longer. At clinics, sometimes we have a horse struggling with something on day 1, 2, 3, it doesn't matter. And we finally make a little tiny bit of progress. And so I stop. And then I stop right by the crowd. This is how I do clinics. And I start answering questions. And I say, look, we're going to talk for like 5 minutes. And you might be like, well, why am I paying Ivy all this time and she's just sitting on my horse? Nothing's happening. Now, I am answering questions and we're talking and discussing things about gaited horses, and this horse is just standing there. The reins are loose. I'm relaxed. He's processing. And I tell people, like, look, this horse, when I go off, may suddenly do something amazing. I said he may not. But it's like 8 out of 10 times, if we've been having trouble and we struggle, and we made a little breakthrough, we stop for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You just sit there. Make sure you breathe. So you're not just holding that tension in like a tense 5 minutes. And you go off, and that horse will either just gait, will put the head down, whatever was the problem, the horse just fixes it because he had time to mentally process it. It is about the head and not the body. Get the head, get the brain, the body's going to follow. When we use the tricks like using poles, head down, head up, stop and back up to trick the body. But once you get the body doing it, how does the horse know mentally that they're supposed to do it again? And that's where stop and praise comes in. She says, we need you in Poland to show us how to work naturally in gait. Is there a chance for your arrival someday? I would love to tell you that I could come. I absolutely would. If we could get enough people, I will be there. Again, like I said, maybe not this year, but I will happily come next year and do a tour of Europe. I think that would be awesome. I know there's people in Netherlands, in Belgium, in Italy, in Poland, in Germany, that have gaited horses. And like even France, we got some people from France on here. Did I miss anybody from Europe that I've talked to? Anyway, yeah, I would love to come. Shanna says, it seems like we have a lot of Virginia people on here. We should schedule a fall clinic. Does anybody in Virginia have an indoor clinic we could use? I will tell you, Shanna, I did 2 clinics in Virginia last fall, 1 week apart. I thought for sure we weren't going to fill them up because usually they were like 2.5 hours apart physically in the distance. And I thought for sure we filled both of them up. So if you do one, I know for sure we can get it filled up. So absolutely, I would happily do one. So yes, if you can find a clinic, we can set that up. Carol, you're welcome. So there you go. That's the basics of how you use your seat. If you're just joining us now, you can go back and watch the beginning as I go through kind of in detail what the goal is. Hopefully that helps. Anyway, if anybody goes out and tries this and either has success or doesn't, I'd love to hear what you did, if it worked. And then, I'd really love to hear. I don't think I'm going to do a video tomorrow. But I am planning to do 3 videos next week. So just FYI, next week, Thursday, I'm headed to Texas. I will kind of go dark for live videos for about 12 days. And then I'll be back into doing it. But next week, there'll be 3 videos, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I've got some really cool topics. One is going to be riding on different surfaces, grass, sand, the road, and how that affects your horse's gait. So we're going to talk about that. That'll be fun. I already had 2 others picked out. What I was going to do, I'm not sure. Anyway, I have some really good ones picked out for next week. Watch for that schedule to come out maybe tomorrow. I'm not actually sure. Anyway, so watch for that. Okay, how many clinic people are needed? So what we do, my clinics are 3 days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, though I'm flexible on the days. That's usually what works best. We have 9 horses and riders. So what it is we start about 9 o'clock, and every rider each day gets a 1 hour individual lesson. So the first person goes at 9, they get a 1 hour lesson. I ask, what do you want to accomplish? I see them ride, and then usually I hop on and start training the gait. And then by day 2, halfway through day 2, and then into day 3, now I'm having the rider start to ride and do what I was doing. And so each rider gets 1 hour each day. And so we go one, and we skip. I don't take a break for lunch. I'll eat while I'm standing. And everybody else is watching and asking questions and interacting and encouraging people. So it goes like that. So we start at 9 and we go till 6 is generally how it works. So that's what a clinic format is. You need 9 riders. Like if you only had 8, I would certainly come, but the goal is to have 9. And auditors are welcome. And because again, it's very interactive. I stop and answer questions a lot. Susan says she's in Central VA. She'd love to come. Terry says, still have Dixie. She's doing great. Awesome. Kim says, what in the world is that noise? Oh, okay, that was my notifications. Sorry. Those are, I have different noises for email and text. And so, unfortunately, it comes through on the live video. Sorry. It's just going to happen occasionally because I forgot to mute my notifications. I can fix that. Normally, I put it on vibrate. And then you guys don't hear that. So, that's what that is. Okay, so that's clinics. I will pretty much go anywhere in the U.S. Pricing wise, for Europe, I am not sure yet how much it would cost to fly there. So that would kind of depend on the cost. Right now in the U.S., my cost is $600 a rider. And there's a few things that change with that, but just to give you an idea, that's about how much it would cost. It's U.S. dollars. So it may be a little bit more to go to Europe. Potentially we can schedule a few clinics while I'm there to make it more worth it. I've have my passport and everything, so. Jackie says, Mystic will trot if I tilt my pelvis slightly forward. That sounds about exactly right. And post. That's actually how I cue my gaited horses to trot, Jackie. So, I mean, yeah, same page. And he will gait if I tilt my pelvis slightly back and keep my butt on his back. Jackie, that is exactly what I would do and have done. Kudos, you're right there. Kitty says, Arkansas, any chance you come to Arkansas? I have had very little interest from Arkansas. It's possible that people just aren't asking. So you'd have to, if you set it up, I would happily advertise for you. But again, I don't set the clinics up. I find someone like you guys that are asking and they have a friend who has an arena or they have an arena, and we pick a date that works. I put it on my calendar, I make a flyer, and I start advertising, and you talk to your friends, and that's how we set clinics up. So I don't get the barn, I don't arrange for the food, I don't meet the people. The person that organizes it would do those things. And again, I have information. So if you want, send me a private message either on the page or on my personal private message, and I can send you the information for the clinic. Karen, ever come to Northern California? I have not yet. I've only been to the LA area for a clinic. I know there's a lot of people asking, Karen. So if you find a way to set one up, I know we could fill it up. Carol, how about North Florida? We were going to try to set one up. We actually had dates picked out for February, which would have actually happened because it was before COVID-19. We could not find an arena that was not charging us an arm and a leg. So I pay for the arena if it's not someone's own, and it has to be a covered arena at least because I don't do rain dates. What happened I pay the barn fee. And if I pay barn fee, the host only gets half off their price. If I don't pay a barn fee, then the host rides for free. So whoever the organizer is, they ride for free. But we couldn't find a barn that was going to charge us less than like $600 a day. And I usually pay about no more than like $600 a weekend for a 3-day clinic. So if you're in Florida, you just have to find a barn that's covered, or at least have it covered as a backup. That's not going to charge an arm and a leg. Tana says, so trying to get a pacey horse to not pace, harder for older horse to change its ways. So Tana, yes and no. It's often physically harder because they're stiff, not necessarily because they're old mentally. I have changed many horses that were, 18, 19, 20 and gotten them to gait in, 4 or 5 weeks. It depends on how they've been ridden too. If they're ridden in a very hollow-backed, high headset, that's going to take a lot of time to change them physically because of them being ridden that way for so long. So it would take more time. It's not bad for the horse. It's actually very good for you to change them. And it is not impossible or something that's going to be like a Herculean effort. It will take time, but it is not impossible. Carol says she may own an arena. Thanks. You're welcome. I hope it happens because I love being able to go south in the winter. because I've done 2 clinics in Florida before, and they were a lot of fun. But that was a couple years ago. Okay. I think I answered everybody's questions. So I hope that really helps you guys with the gait. And like Jackie said, it works perfectly for her to cue the gait. Let's see. Oh, Tana says hers is like 10. Oh, 10 is not very old at all. I worked with a Tennessee Walker who was 11 or 12. He'd never been gaited in his life. He was ridden by quarter horse people. So I don't remember if he trotted or just paced, but he really never gaited in his life. And in like 3 weeks, he was gaiting. And he was like 11 or 12. And again, never gaited in his life. But once I showed him what I wanted him to do, no big deal. So that's not old, and that could be something that changes very quickly. So hopefully that answered your question. So great questions today, guys, really. I love the interaction. The live videos are a lot of fun because you guys ask good questions. And again, the best thing you can do for me if you want to help is really, if you could just share this video. Because we're going to, basically this video, especially because it's talking about the seat, we could really help educate a lot of people about how to start getting more gait and getting consistent. And we talked about stop and praise in this video. So the very best thing you could do to help me is literally just share this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love interacting with you guys and chatting, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. I will talk to everybody on Monday. Watch for me to put the schedule out either tomorrow or Sunday for the rest of the week. And you guys got this. You're doing great. There's been some really encouraging things that people are able to do. Okay, anyway, have a great weekend. You guys got this.